Chicago Bears fans, I don't know about you, but it feels like the front office is already preparing for a massive shakeup that could clear our books by 2027. We are looking at 7 high-profile veterans, including Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, and Joe Thuney, who are all candidates to be released to free up significant salary cap space. This situation matters because the financial flexibility we lacked this offseason could finally be within our reach if these stars do not perform. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Hit the like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments. Let's get into it. The Chicago Bears front office faces a massive financial crossroads as they look toward 2027, with 7 high-profile veterans potentially becoming cap casualties to reset the team payroll. This isn't breaking news triggered by a sudden press release, but rather a cold, hard analytical projection of our current salary structure. Household names like Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, Joe Thuney, Dayo Odeyingbo, Grady Jarrett, TJ Edwards, and Cole Kmet are all entering the final years of their deals with significant cap hits attached to their names. We have watched these men become the backbone of Ben Johnson's system, from Sweat's transformative pass-rushing presence to the veteran leadership of guys like Johnson and Thuney on the perimeter and trenches. The truth is, the front office is staring down a daunting reality where declining production or lingering injury issues could force them to choose between sentimentality and the necessary flexibility to rebuild for the future. Our fan base feels a strange tension here. We have grown attached to the grit these players bring to the field, yet the lack of maneuverability during this past offseason proved that we cannot afford to keep underperforming veterans on bloated contracts. It is a difficult pill to swallow for those of us who have followed this team for decades, watching stars rise and eventually fade while management balances the books. The uncertainty surrounding guys like Kmet, who has seen his output dip while a rookie waits in the wings, makes this transition period even more unsettling. While we debate the merits of cutting these veterans, a much larger mystery looms regarding how this impending housecleaning might actually shift the team's long-term strategy for the upcoming season, especially when you consider which of these players truly holds the most leverage in the locker room. The most shocking reality facing our Chicago Bears is that the front office is already preparing for a massive financial housecleaning in 2027 that could displace 7 high-profile starters simultaneously. We find ourselves in this precarious position because the team lacked the necessary flexibility to make aggressive moves this past offseason, forcing us to lean heavily on existing contracts that are now ballooning in cost. And here's why that's a big deal. When you examine players like Montez Sweat and Jalen Johnson, each carrying massive $25 million cap hits, the front office is clearly prioritizing long-term agility over sentimental loyalty to veteran production. This strategy mirrors the painful, yet often necessary, roster purges we witnessed in previous eras of team history when management finally committed to a full-scale rebuild. Behind closed doors, Ben Johnson and his coaching staff are surely evaluating who among these veterans, like Joe Thuney, who turns 34 this year, or injury-prone contributors like Dayo Odeyingbo and Grady Jarrett, can provide genuine value compared to younger, cheaper talent waiting in the wings. While TJ Edwards remains a stable presence. His recent fractured fibula and age raise legitimate questions about whether he fits the long-term defensive scheme. Furthermore, the decision to draft tight end Sam Roosh is a clear signal that the organization is actively planning for life without Cole Kmet if his recent production slide continues. The front office understands that to build a sustainable championship contender, they cannot afford to carry dead weight, even if those players have been fan favorites. They are looking at the 2027 ledger with cold, hard logic, knowing that clearing tens of millions in cap space is the only path towards securing a roster that can finally compete for the ultimate trophy we have all been waiting decades to see again. The clock is ticking on our financial future, and the current reality of our cap space is staring us down like a formidable goal line defense. While Ben Johnson has injected new life into our coaching staff, the front office faces a cold, hard truth regarding the roster construction for the seasons ahead. We are looking at 7 high-profile veterans whose contracts could either be the key to rebuilding our depth or a major anchor on our flexibility if their production does not rebound. And this is the part that gets me. The sheer volume of talent potentially on the chopping block suggests a massive shift in how this team identifies its core leadership. With Montez Sweat and Jalen Johnson carrying heavy cap hits, their performance becomes a referendum on whether we stick with proven stars or pivot to a younger, more affordable core. If these veterans falter during our crucial early season matchups against the Vikings or Lions, we could see an immediate thinning of our defensive secondary and pass rush, forcing younger players into roles they may not be ready to handle. This uncertainty fundamentally alters our outlook against division rivals who are currently building stability. Every snap for Joe Thuney or Cole Kmet isn't just about winning the next game. It is an audition to justify their place on the books for 2027. If the salary cap forces these moves, our playoff chances will hinge entirely on how effectively we fill these voids without a massive influx of cash. We are approaching a crossroads where sentimental value must take a backseat to fiscal responsibility if we intend to compete for championships in this new era of football. Watching these players navigate these final high-stakes seasons will truly define the legacy of this current front office. The prospect of clearing massive cap space in 2027 by parting ways with 7 high-profile veterans presents a fascinating crossroads for this front office under Ben Johnson. The primary argument for such a radical purge is simple financial pragmatism. By shedding these hefty contracts, we could gain over $90 million in flexibility, finally allowing us to build a sustainable, younger core capable of competing for championships well into the next decade. The downside, however, is the significant gamble of losing proven leadership and established production on both sides of the ball. Losing cornerstones like Montez Sweat or Joe Thuney risks gutting our locker room culture and leaving us with a talent void that draft picks might never adequately fill. Around the league, analysts are watching closely, noting that teams like the Buffalo Bills under Brandon Beane have historically been more aggressive in these cycles to keep their championship windows open. Some critics argue we should retain these veterans to provide stability for our developing roster, suggesting that wholesale turnover often creates more problems than it solves. And the more I look at this, the risks of dismantling a veteran core start to outweigh the theoretical benefits of hypothetical cap relief. Here is where I land on this. I believe we must be surgical rather than impulsive. While the flexibility is tempting, losing high-level starters who still perform at a Pro Bowl caliber, even while aging, usually sets a franchise back further than it moves them forward. We need to prioritize keeping our culture intact while identifying only those specific pieces whose production has undeniably cratered. It is a balancing act between fiscal responsibility and maintaining the competitive standard we expect every Sunday. We cannot afford to flush our remaining veteran experience down the drain simply because the math on the spreadsheet looks appealing for one single calendar year. The Bears are clearly entering a transition phase where fiscal responsibility must finally meet on-field production. While we have faced years of limited spending power under coach Ben Johnson, the 2027 offseason represents a genuine turning point for our franchise. By evaluating the contracts of 7 key veterans, including Montez Sweat and Cole Kmet, the front office is preparing to reshape the roster through significant cap relief. What makes this even bigger is that this shift forces the organization to prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term band-aids. As longtime supporters, we should feel optimistic yet measured heading into this season. We have an opportunity to see if established leaders can still anchor this defense, or if the youth movement spearheaded by talents like Sam Roche will demand their time in the spotlight. This period requires us to be patient, as the goal is clearly to build a championship-caliber team that is not shackled by aging, expensive contracts that no longer provide value. It is a necessary evolution for a storied organization like ours to remain competitive in a changing league. We are essentially watching the blueprint for the next half-decade being drafted right before our eyes. The path ahead is challenging, but the financial flexibility promised in 2027 offers a rare chance for a fresh start. Which of these 7 veterans do you believe has the strongest chance to reinvent themselves and earn a permanent spot in the long-term plans for this team? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Bear down. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep analyzing the game, stay passionate about your favorite franchise, and never stop believing in the potential of your squad to achieve greatness today.